Just wanna apologize for the late start. As I said, just trying to iron out a little bit of kink that we had here. All right, so today we are going to be having a conversation with Charlie Organaire and Roy Panton. And this is all, in response to the recent passing of Lester Sterling, who is who was the last surviving member of the Skatalites.
Right.
I think, as we pointed out, God, nothing is better than having somebody who have been there with these guys.
Yeah, man.
To have this kind of conversation
And
where
we're
we
talking
came
about
from there.
foundation from the very, very start of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and we're talking about none other than Charlie Organaire and Roy Panton. And for those of you who don't know Charlie Organaire, when you listen to most of Prince Buster songs, the production from the very beginning, all the harmonica, as we used to say back in Jamaica, mouth organ sounds you hear.
Don't
That
call
was
him out,
Charlie
Charlie.
That's why I said harmonica, sir. That's why I said harmonica. And then there's a big, big bad tune named We'll Meet. And it was done by Roy Panton and Millie Small.
And that's just one tune,
Yeah, that's
right?
just
One tune.
just
We're gonna talk to, and we have both of them in studio with us live. Roy, all the way from Toronto, Canada. Roy, Toronto. Yes, Toronto, Canada. Yeah, man, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
Yeah.
And Charlie Organaire all the way up the road there in Chicago, Illinois.
in the Windy City, frozen.
Windy
land.
City. Well, right now it's the frozen city. Why them? The man there up at Chicago don't ramp, God. The man
Especially when the breeze come off of the lake.
Wait, no, them run with Mayor Lightfoot like a lightning. Them call that Mayor Lightning. Them run away. Anyway, this is not a political show, so let's leave that alone. Gentlemen, welcome to Sunday Scoops.
Yeah, thank you.
Again, let me apologize for the little glitches that we had at the beginning. We're gonna go until 4:30 this afternoon because we want to try to get in as much as we can. Now, you guys been in the music for a long time. Charlie, you tell me you were there from when did you actually start?
I started. Well, okay. I started playing around with what you call it, a mouth organ.
Mouth organ, yes.
A little toy
Harmonica.
mouth organ from I was 5 years old, actually, because my neighbor played the harmonica or the mouth organ and the guitar, and man, I fell in love with that instrument. So my mom bought me this little yellow plastic harmonica or mouth organ, and took me just a little short time to learn to start playing songs like "Don't You Fence Me In" and "On Top of Old Smoky" and stuff like that, And so then I was 10 years old at Boys Town School when the director invited Virgins to Boys Town, and he was one of the persons who was really actually is responsible for us, most of us who are in the entertainment business. People like Jackie Edwards, Owen Gray, myself, Roy Panton, and so many others. So I came at the time when Virgin was at the Boys Town School. I came first playing the harmonica, and Alton Ellis came second because he was dancing. So he was dancing, and his partner was called Roy.
Eddie, not Eddie.
No, man, Alton and Brenton.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I've heard about
Alton and Brenton.
Alton and Brenton. And then it became Alton and Eddie afterward.
Alton and
Yeah.
Eddie, when he started singing.
Singing, yeah.
So when they did Muriel, that was Alton and Eddie.
Yeah.
But back then, when I was 10 years old, it was Alton and Brenton. So then the prize was to appear at Ambassador Theatre. So I remember playing Cherry Pink and Apple Blossom, and won the first prize. And from there to Palace, to Majestic, to Gaiety, to all over the place.
So
Tropical.
how much was
Yeah.
the price? How much was the price?
The what?
The
How much was the price? £2?
The first prize was £2. Second
£2.
prize was £1.
You could have buy a house with that.
Oh man, that was a lot of money.
Yeah,
A friend of
£2 a lot of money back then.
a friend of mine said to me, he said, Charlie, when you won, we all had money. You know, if you go to the movies,
What a £2?
hey, those days you have a few shillings in your pocket and you shake it up. You know, you're around the girls, you make sure it jingle. You know?
Yeah.
That's where the term money jingling in your pocket come from.
Yeah, man.
Wow, wow. But
Yeah, so
Roy, you yourself,
Yeah.
know, I see you, but both of you were operating just about the same time. You came into
Yeah,
the
well,
business. What year was that?
well, I came in about, I would say about 58, 59. And I came in, I got involved through Stranger Court because Stranger decided to form a group. And I used to go by his place because, as we say, my baby mother used to live Greenwich, right? Greenwich Street.
Hmm.
And I used to go up there on the corner. Those guys hung out on the corner because back then, guys used to hang out on corners and you might be humming a tune or etc., you know. And Stranger decided to form a group. And being that I used to sing in school, I asked him to be a member of the group. I don't remember exactly one who was in that group. Ken Booth could have been in that group, but I don't remember because Ken Booth was around too. And we formed the group, and I remember us appearing at Tivoli at the time. It was Tivoli,
yeah.
not Queens. And we appeared, and we were supposed to be singing the harmony, but we kind of got nervous. Everybody sing the same
Harmony.
tune, unison more or less. Anyways, that was the end of the group, and Stranger went. No, no. After that, Duke Reed wanted to record us, but he said he will record us if we can sing a song about freedom. So Stranger wrote the song Freedom Land, and the flip of it was Adam and Eve. So we recorded that for Duke Reed, but to my knowledge, he never released it. But about, I would say about 4 or 5 years ago, a guy sent me a digital
Of that
with
tune?
with that song, but the song title now was changed to Come and Hold My Hand as opposed to Freedom Land. I was really pleasantly surprised. So I sent Stranger a copy of it. But that's where I would say launched from. And then I teamed up first with Monty, and it was like Monty and Roy.
Right.
And we did a few songs. That's after Stranger and I did that song. We did a few songs for Duke Reed, and then we moved to Beverly,
That's
and
Beverly
we
Records.
recorded Beverly, yeah, Orange Street, North Street,
Right.
Leslie Kong, and we recorded about 3 songs for him. But back then in Jamaica, you never stick to a producer or a
Promoter.
record producer, more or less, because you move where the money is. And Charlie can tell you, Charlie record for every producer because Charlie was the only, as we say, Motown player that everybody recognized. So everybody wanted Charlie on their song or recording.
You know,
So
The hits
Charlie
was
it's
Charlie
interesting you make
record
that
for
point. Interesting you make
yeah
that point, right? Because one of the things when I just connected with Charlie and it's
right
researching his work, he played on almost every piece of music that was coming out of Jamaica in that
definitely
late
back then, yeah.
1950s all the way up to the late 1970s. And
yeah
I just want to remind everybody. Remember what we're doing here is we wanna. This is a sort of a celebration, a remembrance, if you will, of the Skatalites. And just to kick us off, we're gonna give the listeners a little taste of
Right.
what the Skatalites represented in terms of the music, right?
1964.
Okay.
Guns of Navarro. All right.
Yeah,
Guns of
got more.
Navarro. Big bad tune.
Big Bad Tune is
1964.
1964. That was when the Skatalites had basically now established themselves. But gentlemen, the Skatalites
Just never
started
form
out
overnight.
right. They started out. I think a lot of people, we talk about the Skatalites during the period they were with Coxsone, and they did a tremendous amount of recording. But as a group, their time together was pretty short. I mean, we're talking about less than 2.5 years, right?
Oh, yeah.
63 to 64. The band disbanded in 65, so it's about 2.5 years, right?
No, the band is fine. Yeah, you're right. In '65, because
When
I
Don
was
Drummond
at,
died,
huh?
Don Drummond basically left the scene, and
Well,
because it was his creativity. I remember Coxsone making the point that he accommodated Drummond despite his schizophrenic behavior, because he said that anytime Drummond showed up, it was going to be a monster of a creative session in terms of his. That was the kind of value that Coxsone placed on Don Drummond as far as
But
his
not
contribution.
not all the time,
No,
That wasn't all the time.
no, true. But what Cox was saying is that any indiscretion that you get from Drummond is counterbalanced significantly by his creative output, And so he basically figured he could, he made do, And of course, he had he had a room over at 16 and 3/4 Winard Road,
Right.
Bellevue Hospital.
Right.
But prior to coming together as a group, they were playing elsewhere, weren't they?
Well,
Skatalites?
Yes.
well, let me explain the whole thing. It started out with drum bago. It never really started out with like Lloyd Nibs and all of that. It
Right.
started out with drum bago. Then you have blues, which was the bass player. You had Jerry on guitar, Roland Alfonso, Theophilus Beckford, Richard Ace. Um, there's another drummer, Hugh Malcolm, played. So you have Lester Sterling, you have Ed Cannonball, and you had Hedley Bennett.
Edla Bennett, yeah.
Right, Hedley Bennett.
Deadly
You had
Headley.
right, Deadly Hedley.
Raymond
Then
Harper,
Raymond Harper. You
yeah.
had you had the same soldier guy you called him earlier.
Yeah,
Mason.
from, yeah,
Mason.
Mason,
Mason
from
played
Army.
also played bass, flute, and some
Yeah,
sessions.
yeah,
Okay. So, but Lester Sterling was always there from the beginning. You had Rico Rodriguez, Roland, and then Dan Drummond. But Dan
yeah.
Drummond's, um, there are times when he goes off a little, but not all the time, Not all the time, not in the studio. I think music kept him sane,
Yeah. I agree with that part of it, because I was around him a few times. He played on a couple of my records, and I remember the first time I saw Don Drummond, we were doing a show. I think it was King's Theatre, and it was a Coxsone show. And then Coxsone came with him. And everybody said, "That's Don Drummond," and I just keep staring at him because he was so famous, even though I never seen him before, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, when he played on my record, he played on a record, a million me did. Um, I think it was about 60. It was after Wheelmeat, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Probably
the title,
63.
I think it was about 63. The title record was is this world. Keep us in this world. And I remember him, Dan Drummond arranged it. Lenny Burst was on vibes.
Right.
Dan Drummond, I don't remember the other musicians, because we went in the studio and we recorded and then we left. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't, but I remember recording with him. But like you said, he was a maestro, but he kept quiet most times.
Yeah,
And the only
he
time you hear him is when he's playing the
playing the
trombone.
trombone, right? But
Yeah.
according to the scribes, they regarded him as one of the greatest trombone players in the music
Sarah,
business
Sarah
in the
Vaughan, when
world.
she came to Jamaica, right? Sarah
Yeah.
Vaughan says he reminded her of a trombonist, an Italian trombonist, Frank Rossellino. I don't know if you know that name.
No, I don't know
No.
that.
Because, yeah, his trombone, slide trombone was like valve trombone, so smooth.
Right. Well, he was like number three in the world, you know. It was
Yeah,
J.J. Johnson, K.
J.J.
Winding,
Johnson, K.
and
Winder, yeah. And
right,
K. Winder play valve.
right, right,
J.J. slide and K. Winder valve, yeah.
right, right. But they were the top trombonists in the
Yeah,
world, and
yeah,
so they rated Don Drummond's next to them. Yeah.
yeah.
But but like you were saying, um, 63, that was when Lloyd Nibs and Tommy McCook, because they started about 62. Lloyd Nibs
Yeah,
and Tommy McCook, yeah.
they started later. They started later.
62, yeah, 62
Yeah.
when they came in. But before that, it was Rumbago and the other people, you know,
Yeah,
Theophilus.
Roland.
Right,
Yeah,
right, yeah.
Theophilus, yeah. Beardy sometimes on keyboard or guitar.
But you know, so there's something I wanted to mention because I noticed they there was an article in the Gleaner
Yes.
and they named the musicians that were in the Skatalites, but they
Hmm.
missed two persons that were in the Skatalites,
Yeah.
which was um
Da Costa, Tony.
Tony da Costa
Yeah.
and Come Down Off of Your
Pumps and
Pumps
Pride.
and
Yeah.
Pride.
Tanamo.
Right.
Yeah.
That
That's Lord Tanamo.
Lord
large
Tanamo.
animal. Right, right.
Yeah. And
So
and
those were
and Tony da Costa. Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
hold your thoughts, gentlemen, because one of the things that strike me as we have this conversation, there is a lot that is written about the Skatalites, and one of the well, a couple of different people seem to have the Skatalites line up as follows, right?
Hmm.
Jerome Jerry Hines
Right,
um, as the guitarist. The bassist
right,
was Lloyd Brevitt.
right.
Yeah.
Teenage pianist would have been Jackie Mitou.
Yes,
The drummer was Lloyd Nib.
right,
Trumpeter Johnny Moore, Dizzy Moore.
right, right.
And then yeah, the saxophone, tenor saxophone was Tommy McCook, who came from Cuba.
Hmm.
Alto
And
saxophone,
Roland,
um, yeah, Cuban to Roland
Roland also
Alfonso,
was
right?
tenor.
Right.
Yeah, Roland is also from
From
Cuba.
Cuba, right. And then
Yeah.
alto sax was Lester Sterling, who the man who
Right,
Right.
passed
right,
on a
Right.
couple of
right,
weeks ago.
Right.
right.
And then there, of course, there's the trombonist, Don Drummond.
Yeah.
Um, it appears that between Don Drummond, Dizzy Moore, McCook, and Sterling, that they alternated with the trombone as well, right?
Right, right.
Well,
And
Don Drummond didn't travel them much because of his sickness,
right,
but he
But
recorded with them.
well, in Jamaica, he played with them live.
Yeah.
Because at Bournemouth and all of that, you know, at
Yeah.
the time I was with Carlos Malcolm for a little bit,
Yeah.
and back then the two bands that drew the crowd was Byron Lee and Carlos Malcolm. And at Sombrero, when Carlos played, that room was packed. And when Skatalites came out live at Bournemouth, all those rooms were empty because everybody ended up where the Skatalites played, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah, because,
so
you know, they, right.
you had a band that seemed to have preceded the Skatalites and would have included some of the members of the Skatalites. You remember that band, Garth? Uh,
Supersonics?
no,
That
Supersonics?
came afterwards.
this was Oh my goodness, a senior moment is catching up with me. Clues J, Chloe Johnson.
Close
Oh,
J
that
and the
was
Blues
Chloe
Blasters.
Johnson. Johnson was early. He was before I
Yeah,
started in the studio.
Clue J was like from the beginning.
Yeah,
Boogie Woogie, that was.
right,
Yeah.
right,
But
right.
wouldn't you say that the whole ska thing was born out of? I kind of get the impression because, as you said, Clues J was playing this
Boogie
boogie woogie
woogie.
music,
The
but
Boogie Woogie. Yeah.
that was what the musicians coming out of Alpha was. They were playing that at Alpha, isn't it?
Now let me explain the boogie woogie.
Yeah.
As far as I know, every young person that goes on a piano, they play boom, ba ding, ba bing, ba.
Yeah.
That's the
American
first thing.
Blues. Yeah.
Theophilus
American
Any,
Thomas.
Blues. Yeah.
that's the first thing you hear them play, right? Because you see, um, the music from New Orleans were popular in Jamaica back then. You
Yeah.
know, okay, so you have Fats Domino, you have Bill Doggett, Honky
Bill
Tonk.
Doggett. Bill
When you
Doggett.
listen
Yeah.
to Bill
Yeah.
Doggett, yeah,
Jordan, Louis Jordan.
Louis Jordan,
And the
Dave
345.
Bartholomew.
all of
Dave
those people.
Bartholomew. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Amos Melbourne. One
yeah,
scotch, one bourbon, one
yeah.
beer.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
So that's where our influence came from. So
from the
now
Americans. Yeah.
the person who actually pretty much responsible for a lot of that was Theophilus Beckford because he wasn't the greatest pianist, but every time he goes to play, it's the same boom, pop,
Yeah.
pop, pop,
Pump,
pop.
pump, pump,
Right,
pump, pump. Right.
right. So with Cluet, there was a tune I don't remember the title of it. You probably remember it. Pa ba da ba ba, pa ba da ba ba ba, pa ba ba da ba ba,
I know the tune, but
pa
I don't
ba
remember the
ba
Yes, I
ba
title
know the
either.
ba
truth.
ba do ba.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's a boogie woogie. Pa
Yeah.
pa 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 da pa. So and you boom the ding ba boom ba bum. So
Yeah.
that was
You
a
hear the bandman, you
before.
hear the bandman and do God. Eh?
So that was before the people like Prince Buster, Derek
Are you?
Morgan,
Yeah.
Monty Morris,
Yeah.
because the ska actually the strong influence of the
Would,
ska
would,
came
would,
from
would, would that song be the Shuffling Jug?
well
Shuffling
let me
job,
say
come on,
this
fight.
when Drum Bago played because if you remember a tune named Let's George Do It,
Yes.
Yeah.
okay, pa 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 ba
Ah-ba-da-da.
pa 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 pa
Yeah.
pa 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 da. Right, that was Drum Bago Blues, Lester Sterling. No bass was on that one. Actually, it was just drums, the kick drum. Because the difference with drum Bago and Lloyd Nibs is that drum Bago played four on his kick, while Lloyd Nibs played two on the kick. You see, so that was the difference between them. So that early stage was the drum Bago and all of these other people that I talk about. Then eventually you have the heavy section, the harmonica, you have the guitar, you have the saxophone, you have trumpet, and everybody playing that scale riff. Pop, 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 throughout all the songs. So all the Prince Busters, Monty Morris, Derek Morgan, Roy Panton, Stranger Cool, all of them getting that rhythm.
Yeah.
Right.
That's something I want to make clear because I've seen it. I've seen misprint of it. Let George Do It was Rico, but
Yeah.
I've seen where they print Dan Drummond's, but it wasn't Dan Drummond's. That was
No,
Rico.
no, it was
Yeah,
Rico Black. Yeah.
that was Rico, and that was for Prince Buster.
Right.
Let George Do It. Because how that came up to with the boom, it was the started because as you know, in the studio they had to put a screen around drum big or bass drum. Because if they didn't do that, all of the songs would be distorted with the drum. getting
Or
into the bass.
the vibration coming back in.
Yeah, getting into because Charlie can tell you the studio we're in, everybody just packed in it. So everybody, even though you have a mic, your soul might come through my mic.
But everything was live, Roy.
Everything was live, yeah. Everything was live. Yeah. So those were primitive times, you know?
No, those are great times. Primitive.
All right, we almost up on a break, gentlemen. What we want to do, you know, because we as we said, we sort of, this is a sort of a serenading, if you will, of the Skatalites, and at the same time showing some appreciation
we have some Leicester Sterling.
for Leicester, right? Who recently passed. You know, it's a golden era of our music disappeared when Leicester dropped out over the last couple of weeks, and I think it is fitting that we have a program of this sort that recognizes the value of this music and the contribution of those. So let's go to the break. We're gonna come right back, gentlemen.
Leicester Sterling.
But first of all, I know Charlie, you would have played on a couple of those pieces that God ran just now.
Right. But I was paying attention to which one of them I played on. But I know I didn't play at Bangarang because that was when I left, when I stopped recording. But let me explain something. There's, we're talking about ska, and we're talking about reggae. Now, if you listen to Bangarang, Bangarang is totally different in rhythm than the others that you played.
That's a reggae.
Right, because that's a reggae. So the drum beat is different. Everything is different about that music.
In fact,
so now what I've noticed is in Jamaica, they're calling everything reggae.
Reggae, yeah.
Everything cannot be reggae.
Cannot be reggae, I agree. 100%.
Mental cannot be reggae.
Ska cannot be
music
reggae.
cannot be reggae.
Rocksteady cannot be reggae.
Reggae, none.
Right. Right.
But one of the problem that I have with that, I agree with you, Charlie. But again, it comes back to us owning what is ours. My philosophy has always been that if you don't take ownership of the thing that you create, other people gonna take it and represent it as them own. Right. And in the course of that, all of this mislabeling, because you're right, I think for short, the people in the music fraternity out there view every music that come out of Jamaica as reggae.
Right.
Right.
And we have not done much by way of correcting that mistaken.
And that's where the media comes in. On Bangarang though, the group that was a copy of was Kenny Graham and the Afro-Cubists. And the name of the song was Bongo Chant from 1953.
Yeah.
But you see, when you listen to Toots and the Metal, because between that song, Bangarang, and Toots and the Metals, because they started that early reggae beat rhythm also. With Toots and the Metals. No, not just let me think of right.
Independent song.
Right. Yeah. So you see, that's a reggae right there. It's a total different rhythm from the one to chapum chatting body. There's different rhythms. Yeah.
I think the problem, Charlie, is that a lot of people outside of Jamaica really don't get the ska, the rocksteady, and the reggae different. So they just group everything in one and just call it reggae. Because I never sang much reggae. Most of our songs back then with myself, with Monty, Millie, and Ivan is ska. Rocksteady was Endless Memory. That was the first rocksteady I did.
Hi there. If you enjoyed that clip, go on over to our website at yardmedia.com where you can watch the entire broadcast at your leisure. And while you're there, why don't you check out our other reggae music features? And before you leave, pick up some of our Jamaican reggae merchandise, and hey, don't forget to tell your friends.